Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another true crime case. It is the unsolved missing case of Kyron Hormon. I'm going to be reading from my notes. I hope that's okay. When I do these videos, I try to, not read from the notes directly and memorize everything, and it doesn't work that well because I want to get the details proper, so I hope you're okay with that. So if you guys want to hear about Kyron Hormon, then just keep watching. So as I read this case, it's always been centered around one person as the main suspect. However, the police don't feel that she's a suspect, so I'm going to voice both sides at the same time, so it's going to be a little bit confusing, but I don't want this to be like everybody else's video where it just points the finger at one person. So basically, Kyron Hormon was a 7-year-old boy. He was born on September 9th, 2002, and he disappeared on June 4th, 2010. He disappeared from his elementary school that he went to. It was called Skyline Elementary, and it was in Portland, Oregon. His missing case was one of the most extensive, exhaustive searches in the history of Oregon. Okay, so just because it's going to be confusing, I'm just going to explain the family dynamic. So Kyron's biological father is named Kane, and he was with a lady named Terry, that's his wife, and that is Kyron's stepmom. The other side of the family is Kyron's biological mother named Desiree, and she was with a guy named Tony, I believe. That's Kyron's stepdad. So Terry basically raised Kyron with Kane. They had full custody because ever since Kyron was first born, Terry and Kane apparently had an affair when Desiree was pregnant with Kyron. And Desiree had some medical issues. She had to get lots of treatments and she was in and out of the hospital. So she basically gave up custody, thinking it would be a better life for Kyron to go live with Terry and Kane. So I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything, but I'm just stating the facts as they are. So some people think it's weird that Desiree gave up basically custody of her child. Even when she got better, she didn't try and get him back. He ended up living, I think it was about 5 hours away from where Kyron lived with his father. And she did see him, but it was only a couple times a month. So, on this particular day, Kyron went to school with his stepmom, Terry, and Terry had borrowed Kane's pickup truck that day. And the reason why she borrowed his pickup truck is Kyron had a science fair, and so he had a really big project, and she was going to bring it home after he was done presenting. And I'll keep this detail in mind because it comes up later in the case. So Terry brings Kyron to school.
Normal day, just nothing out of the ordinary. Got to school about 8:15, I believe, and went to the classroom. He had his library books to return to the librarian, saw the teacher, the PTA president was in there, talked to a couple other kids, and there's the infamous picture I took of him standing by his poster.
And Terry said she had her other child with her, and so Kyron ran ahead of her, and it took her a little time to catch up, but she saw him walking down the hall to go into his classroom, and she waved goodbye, and he waved goodbye, and that was the end of it. So when Kyron went into his class, the teacher claims that he was never present, and she marked him absent, which is weird because Kyron's jacket and his book bag and all that stuff was in the classroom. So if you saw that stuff and you had seen him in the morning presenting his project, I mean, it's a little weird that she marked him absent and didn't say anything.
Mrs. Porter, the regular teacher, accompanied by a substitute there to help with the science fair. It was the substitute, says Tanner, who noticed Kyron was missing.
And she's like, "Oh no, where's Kyron? There's only 5. And Miss Porter's like, it's all right, calm down. He's probably in the bathroom or getting a drink of water. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna leave. And she left.
Tanner went about his day.
Nobody realized Kyron was missing at the time. So there was no phone call to Terry or Kane, and the boy was missing for hours before anyone knew what was going on. Anyone that knows Kyron has basically said that he's very timid and very shy, and he would never just wander off. He would never leave the school without, you know, somebody he knows picking him up. Some people claim that they saw Terry leave with Kyron. However, the police followed those leads and said that is not true. So Terry claims she left Kyron there. However, she did not take the project home in the pickup like she had said that was the original plan. So how they figured out that the boy had been missing was at 3:30, Terry and Kane walked to the bus stop to pick up Kyron. He never got off the bus, so they talked to the bus driver and he called the school, and the school informed the family that he had never been present in class, and they notified 911, and then a huge search began. All 4 members of the family were polygraphed and questioned, and Tony, who is Desiree's husband, he was a former police officer, I think maybe a detective, and so he kind of briefed the family on what to expect, what the police would be asking them, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I guess apparently when he brought up that the parents' lives would be looked into and investigated, he claims Terry was very uncomfortable with that and didn't like that. But I mean, that's what he says, so who knows if that's true. So all 4 members of the family submitted polygraph tests, and apparently Terry's came back as a fail. And she was like honest about that. She told the family, like, you know, that's so weird, I'll do another one.
So the first one was approximately an hour long, and reading the results took about 3 hours to do it. I'm very hard of hearing, virtually deaf in my left ear, so I have to look at people when I talk to them to understand what they're saying. He was behind me when he was doing the first polygraph. So it took me a little bit of time to process what he was saying to respond. I was gone for the 3 hours while he put it together, came back, and he just, I don't even know what was up on the screen, but he said, "You failed." And I was like, how can I possibly fail? I told the truth. The second polygraph was, the guy was in a rush. One of the questions was Kyron in the truck with you? Well, there's a fail right there.
So when Terry was questioned by police, she claimed that she left the school at 8:45. So she left the class and then she went to run errands, and her daughter had an ear infection. So she went to a grocery store to pick up medication. They didn't have it, so she went to a second grocery store and purchased it. She has receipts for this, and there is surveillance that proves this. So she did the errands until about 10:10, and then between 10:10 and 11:39 a.m., she said that she drove around because her daughter had this ear infection. It soothed her from like the motion of the vehicle. So she doesn't really say, you know, where she drove around. And then she went to a gym at about 11:39. She signed her daughter into the daycare there, worked out, and then at about 12:40 she left. She was home by 1:21 p.m. And when she arrived, she went on the computer and posted pictures to Facebook of Kyron. And then Kane came home at about 2 o'clock and showered. And then that's when they walked to the bus stop together and realized the boy was missing. So the problem with this story is that I guess the police looked into her cell phone records, and where she says she was and where she was don't really match. However, they claim that her phone pinged at this area called Sauvie Island. But the only thing is it's about 5 miles from Kyron's school, and there is no cell tower on the island. So where it pinged could have been the area technically that she was driving around when she was trying to soothe her daughter's ear infection. There is basically security, so when you go onto the island and leave the island, it takes pictures of your vehicle and the license plate. Her vehicle was proven to never have gone to the island, although Desiree started really pushing the fact that she thought Terry had something to do with Kyron's disappearance. And so, of course, when the media gets this, story, they try and push it on Terry and basically paint her as like the evil stepmother. So everybody was like really hard on her. So because the phone had pinged in the area of Sauvie Island, the police did a huge search there. They brought police dogs, cadaver dogs, FBI, like, everybody. And there was no trace at all of the little boy. Because people were pointing the finger at Terry and she was the last one to have seen Kyron, she hired a lawyer, and the lawyer basically told her not to talk anymore because everything she said was being used against her.
Terry, you're at a crossroads in your life. We don't always like what life has to give us, but we don't have a choice in that. The one thing we have a choice in is how we handle these moments. You really have to do the right thing and make the right choice and help us bring Kyron home.
So I guess Kane and Terry's relationship wasn't doing very well. But as the investigation was going, police found out that Terry had been involved in like a sexting relationship with one of Kane's old high school friends.
Say whatever, like I'm going to get any ever again. You say we need to arm wrestle. Meanwhile, just know I can take you down. I won't hurt you though. Grin, going to bed, underwear and tank top. Think about that. Do you want to pick? Then you send a photo and say, that's only the left one. I quote unquote aim to please. Did you want something bigger? Another photo.
And not 2 weeks into it, this is what Kane's doing with somebody else.
Claimed that Kane was having the affair on her. So, really a messy situation there. So when that news came out shortly after, police talked to the landscaper, and the landscaper was the one that gave the details to the police about this. So they did this, undercover wiretap thing, and he went to Terry and brought up the plot, and Terry basically said, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, she had never heard of this before. So the police couldn't arrest her, and so it was basically just like speculation. So something to note that the media never really reported on is the landscaper doesn't speak English, and there was no interpreter present. So he needed an interpreter when he was telling the police this. So, that's kind of weird. How would he have said all this to her? I don't know. Just a little strange. But anyways, it was never proven. So basically, when Kane moved out of the house, he ended up getting a restraining order against Terry, and that was granted. And he was given full custody of their daughter. So Terry was not even allowed visits in the beginning. So I don't know what police had on her for that to happen. They never came out with any fact. Basically, Terry's reputation had been so damaged that she had to go move back in with her parents because she couldn't really get a job. And if she did get a job, so many people would basically stalk her at work and harass her and post missing posters at her workplace. Actually, she was granted a name change, so she goes under a new name today. There was little details where Desiree would point things out to media and say that Terry was lying. She basically said that when Terry said, I looked down the hallway at Kyron and I waved goodbye and he walked into his class, Desiree said that that was a lie and it wasn't possible to see his classroom from the hallway. But it was proven that Desiree had never even been to Kyron's school. It was Terry that always went to school, brought him there, went to his interviews, all that stuff. It's easier for media to, flip the story and make Terry look bad. She's never been a suspect. She's been investigated. They can't tie her to the abduction or anything, the murder whatsoever. So, I would like to know what you guys think, because when you hear this story, it's always one-sided. It's never a mixture of both. I know both parties aren't guilty, so I feel bad even, you know, saying bad things about either side. However, I just think when you look into a case, you should get the information about both sides. I don't think Desiree had anything to do with his disappearance, but I do think that she played a huge part in why Terry was implicated. I do think there's a lot of inconsistencies in Terry's, you know, stories and stuff like that. But at the same time, she has receipts to prove where she was. You know, I mean, she looked after the little boy since he was born. I mean, that's basically her child. You know, mothers do kill their children and stuff like that. However, I don't know what she would gain from this. Ray tried to say that Terry was jealous of Kyron and Kyron was interfering with her relationship with Kane. So that's why she did it, which when you start like coming up with theories like that, I think it's like fighting dirty kind of, because like to me, that's not a reason to, that's just not a realistic reason. So I'd like to hear what you guys think about this. There are other details I left out, but basically, you know, people said Terry was busted drinking and driving and, you know, like she was maybe an alcoholic and you know, stuff like that. But I just think, I mean, so many people have had a drinking and driving charge. Not that it's okay at all, but I mean, they also left out the fact that she was a teacher and she had a really good education and she raised Kyron from the beginning when his mother wouldn't or couldn't. I just hope that one day this family can get some answers and some closure and, you know, maybe possibly bring him home. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other suggestions for missing cases, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.